Nature can hide dark secrets. It's my job to unearth them. My name is Anna Pigeon.
This Friday.
I'm a law enforcement ranger. I need you to put your hands on the ground.
Don't miss USA's newest drama series.
If you even touch one hair on the park's head, I'll stop you.
Based on the best-selling books. For Anna, solving crime is second nature.
I'm not letting him get away with this.
Why do you care so much, Anna?
Someone has to.
Anna Pigeon premieres this Friday at 10 on USA Network.
For moi,
Claude, you can talk?
I've always had the gift of gab, Nancy. But now you can understand. With Pretty Litter, the odor-neutralizing, long-lasting, health-indicating kitty litter that's simply the most luxurious way to bury my poopies and my peepees.
Pretty Litter was developed with veterinarians. It helps me monitor potential health problems just by changing color.
Go to prettylitter.com today. Pretty Litter, not just a pretty litter.
Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, is a man who spent the morning with a cheap guitar and a yard sale amp. Here is the Captain.
And a full glass of lemonade. It's good to be seen. It's good to see you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend.
Bless the bees, because today we are drinking Bumble Berry Honey Blueberry Ale by Fatheads Brewery. Brewed with fresh harvested spring honey stolen from some very angry bees and infused with fresh blueberries, this is a delicious beer. This is a light, refreshing ale with a nice blueberry aroma, malt flavors, and a hint of sweetness. ABV 5.3%, Garage Ray 3 3/4 bottle caps out of 5. And let's give some thanks and praise to our good friends that put some beer in this old fridge. First up, a shout out to Alex from Lapine, Oregon.
And a big tall cans in there goes out to Mike Gage in Fort Myers, Florida.
And last but certainly not least, here's a shout out to a nasty fan and more importantly, a longtime friend of the show. So a big cheers to Jessica Harden in Indiana. Everyone we just mentioned, they helped us out with this week's beer fund, gave us a little bit of love, so we're giving a little love back to them, and for that, we thank you.
Yeah, BWRUN Beer Run. For everything true crime, check out truecrimegarage.com. While you're there, sign up on the mailing list, and Colonel, that's enough of the business.
All right, everybody, gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime. On an early afternoon on August 8th, 1977, a cloudy summer day in Fairview Park, Ohio, 17-year-old Yvonne Reglar was working alone at a Sunoco station pumping gas. This was an old-school, full-service, one-gas pump station. Yvonne was seen at the Sunoco in the early afternoon, but by the end of her shift, at 3 p.m., she was gone. No one has seen Yvonne since. Police say she was abducted, and they have received many leads over the years, but they are still requesting help and information from the public. At the time of her disappearance, Yvonne was 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighed 135 pounds. She had brown hair and blue eyes. She was last seen wearing denim cutoff shorts and a yellow t-shirt. She was well liked by all. Reliable, hardworking, and going to school. Just a good kid from North Olmsted, Ohio, who, as of this week, has been missing now for 49 years. This is True Crime Garage. Yvonne Reglar was 17 when she vanished from the Sunoco gas station in Fairview Park. She was born on July 11th, 1960. So today she would be 66 years old. And so for us, Captain, the two of us here in the garage this evening, we are wedged between her birthday and what will be, in just a couple of days, 49 years since the day that police say she was taken from the gas station. Yvonne was a student at Olmsted High School. She was about to start her senior year, and Yvonne was no problems for anyone. She got good grades, got along with her parents and siblings, was a great worker, and to put it plain and simple, Captain, my favorite description of Yvonne is, quote, she was a tomboy, played in the band, just a decent, good kid. There were 6 kids in this big family. She was a middle child, so we have 3 kids still living at home with her mother, Mary Jane, and her stepfather, Gerald. Sadly, Yvonne's father passed away when she was young. I believe she was 12 years old at the time of his passing. Where we start our timeline, it is the summer before her senior year at North Olmsted High. So this will be a time that's going to be filled with, when you're a kid, you hope mostly friends, but we know that she's working. So her time is going to be filled with some work, friends, and the simple joys of teenage life. Yvonne lived on Woodmere Drive in North Olmsted, and to earn some money, she took a job at a local Sunoco gas station on Lorraine Road. The morning of August 8th, 1977, Yvonne's parents were going on a fishing trip at Lake Erie. But for Yvonne, this day would begin like any other workday. Yvonne arrived at the North Olmsted Sunoco ready to start her shift at 7 a.m. However, the day took an unexpected turn. Management needed to shuffle some of the staff around because we have an employee at another Sunoco just up the road in Fairview Park. This person was an experienced mechanic. Okay, so folks our age, you still see them somewhat today, but they're quite rare. But remember, back in the day, some of these gas stations, in fact, a lot of them in certain parts of the country, were also a form of a service station as well, where you could stop in for gas, but you could also go in for a tire or a tire repair or an oil change, things of that nature. They required a person who had experience as a mechanic at the North Olmsted location on that day. Okay, so Yvonne was asked if she would be willing to swap places and cover the shift at the Fairview Park station. She agreed, but she is without a vehicle of her own. She does not own a car. So a co-worker takes her to this other location. At 8 a.m., she arrived at the Sunoco located at 18990 Lorraine Road. This is just across the city line in Fairview Park. Okay, this is not very far from her home, but there's a lot of things that are important here with this shift and this movement to this story. We said she does not own a vehicle. Well, she's had this job for quite some time. I believe it was roughly about a year by the time that she had gone missing. The Sunoco station that she worked at, her regular Sunoco station, was at Lorraine and Clegg Road in North Olmsted. This is where she usually worked. This gas station that she disappears from, the other Sunoco, this would be the only day that she ever works there. Mm-hmm. So the one that she regularly works at is a 15-minute walk, conservatively, from her home. The one that she will be filling in for is Sunoco at Lorraine and Story Road in Fairview Park. This one's about a 15-minute drive from her home. So it's not really far from where she lives, but the key is this is the first and only day that she will work at this gas station, and this is her by herself. The work environments are described very differently. So her regular gas station, Captain, has much more in the way of business and customers.
Yeah.
And at that time, they had self-serve gas pumps. The one that she's going to fill in at is a single pump station, but it's a full service pump. The clerk has to go out and pump the gas for the customer. So she is flying solo at the Sunoco, Captain, to pass the time between customers. She is chatting on the phone. And this will help shrink that window of concern on our timeline here. At 10:30 a.m., she called a girlfriend. This is Terry McKenna. They talked about their plans to attend a memorial service for another friend's father. I believe that was going to take place on a Tuesday. This is a Monday. Yvonne mentioned that she had even bought a new dress for this occasion. About 30 minutes or so later, she had a similar conversation with a family member. Now, around noon, the manager from her regular North Olmsted store, Sunoco store, his name is Rick Eman, dropped by, checking on her and brought her lunch. Now, the reports I have, Captain, state that this is the same man, the manager at her regular store, that drove her from the store to the new store earlier in the day. At 12:30 p.m., by this point, Rick Eman is gone, and now she's on the phone with Terry, her friend Terry again. And the two friends were chatting some more. Terry says during this conversation that she had heard that distinct ding of the service bell in the background, this signaling a car had driven onto the lot. Yvonne said to her that the car had just driven through the lot and left, so she didn't need to get off the phone. They continued their conversation.
Yeah, and I think this location is a little more rural, so you'd have a lot more situations where people pull in to turn around.
The difference here in the two locations, from what I can see, is the park is across the street, as well as a golf course, which may or may not have been there then, but we know that the Rocky River and the park were absolutely there. And so that really makes it so there's less people living in this general area. And it's kind of like you said. So one side of Lorraine's a very big road, a long road that stretches across a fair portion of Northeast Ohio, especially in Cuyahoga County. And on this stretch right here, what you have is the north side of Lorain will butt up to neighborhoods and such. The south side of this portion of Lorain Road is all park. So it really cuts in half the amount of people that live in this general area. And like we said, her regular Sunoco that she worked at, Clegg and Lorain, is surrounded by neighborhoods and houses and people. So much busier. It's still there to this day. In fact, both of these buildings are still there. One is a Sunoco, and I believe today the location where she went missing from is a mechanic shop. It's all service and no gas, I would believe.
Well, it's been almost 50 years, like you said. And so, yeah, the building's still there, but the area has built up quite a bit. So you can look up visuals of it today, but it's not going to give you a clear picture of what it's like. So I imagine her going to work. Like you said, she's at a busier location. Hey, do you want to go to the less busy location? She's had this job for a while, but less customers, but you have to go out and pump a couple people's gas. It will make the time go by faster.
It's also kind of cool that she can be on the phone with her friends. And so she's on the call with her friend Terry. Again, she hears the ding. Okay. And Yvonne says on the call with her friend, "Oh, that car, the one that just drove through and left," she said, "Oh, that car came back." She says something like, Terry says that Yvonne's words were, "The same car is back." Okay, so obviously Yvonne is going to need to go attend to this customer, and they agreed that they would continue their conversation later when her shift ended at 3 p.m. Okay, so 1:25 p.m. is an important marker on our timeline here. And this is because we have a couple of things, confirmations that all is well at this time. So one, Yvonne is both seen by another person. This is someone that is working across the street. And also at 1:25 p.m., Yvonne records a credit card sale, which in 1977 would be fairly rare. Most of this is going to be cash transactions.
Well, it's so different than today because I believe she had to initial the receipt.
Yes. Sometime after that, everything changed because what we have today is police saying whatever occurred, we believe took place after that sighting at 1:25, after that credit card sale at 1:25, sometime between 1:30 p.m. and 2:05 p.m. And the reason why we're able to pinpoint this little window in time, roughly 35 minutes, is at some point close to 2 p.m., we have people who start to arrive at the Sunoco gas station. What we have here, Captain, we get two different customers, independent of one another, who pulled in, needing to get gas. They find the gas station completely unattended. Also, around this time, we have a coffee machine repair person who arrives. Some of the reports state that this is a scheduled service.
Right.
So this could be a 2 p.m. scheduled service. This repair person also finds the gas station empty. Now, as the reports go, all three of these individuals they eventually just leave the gas station. That nobody gets gas. I don't think the machine was repaired. They leave. Eventually, much later or a short time later, after everyone realizes that there was a situation, they will report having been there during that time frame.
Right.
So now we fast forward to 2:45 p.m. This is when Gary Peacock, he's the employee that is scheduled to relieve Yvonne. He arrives at the Sunoco to start his shift. And of course, he's confused. He's in there looking around. He can't find her anywhere. He sees her purse and obvious items suggesting that she was there a short time probably before he arrived. And he calls the manager at the North Olmsted Sunoco store. That manager then quickly drove over to Fairview Park Station to investigate. What he found was deeply unsettling. Inside the station, everything of Yvonne's was still there. This is her purse, her paperback book, her thermos, and her partially eaten lunch. The cash register was untouched. The safe was intact. The door was unlocked. There was no indication of a struggle at the scene. There was no sign of Yvonne. There was $300 cash in the register.
Yeah.
So the manager immediately called the police.
And I don't know if you've had jobs like this before, but they're great jobs. The ones that you show up and you can bring your book to and bring your lunch, and in between customers, you can just kind of have your own little solo party. And so I don't know if this coworker knew her personally because they worked at different locations, but if you're the manager and your employee's showing up ready for a shift, I mean, good employee, right? Showing up 15 minutes before he has to clock in, she's nowhere to be found. This is, to me, very concerning because he drove her there. The manager drove her there. So he knows that this is too far for her just to go, hey, I'm just going to head back home and I'm just going to hoof it by foot.
Yeah, the Fairview Park police were baffled. With no sign of a struggle, no robbery, and no obvious indication of foul play, they began to wonder if she had run away, if they had a runaway on their hands.
Yeah.
Lieutenant John Hall, the lead investigator at the time on the case, posed several questions to the press, saying, quote, if she was kidnapped, why didn't they rob the station? He added, quote, we're going to find her alive and well when she decides to come home, end quote. Yvonne's family and friends knew this theory didn't add up. They argued that men who kidnap young women are often not motivated by money, and all too often they do not leave their victims alive to tell the story. The family pointed out Yvonne didn't have a car, so she couldn't have driven away. She had left her purse, her money, and all of her personal belongings behind.
Nature can hide dark secrets. It's my job to unearth them. My name is Anna Pigeon.
This Friday,
I'm a law enforcement ranger. I need you to put your hands on the ground.
don't miss USA's newest drama series
If you even touch one hair on the park's head, I'll stop you.
based on the best-selling books. For Anna, solving crime is second nature.
I'm not letting him get away with this.
Why do you care so much, Anna?
Someone has to.
Anna Pigeon premieres this Friday at 10 on USA Network.
New teachers, new schedules, new expectations. Back to school is a lot. IXL makes it easy to spot and close learning gaps in just a few minutes a day. IXL is an award-winning online learning platform that helps kids truly understand what they're learning, whether they're building math confidence, strengthening reading and writing skills, or reviewing science concepts. IXL is used in 96 of the top 100 school districts in the U.S., and studies show kids who use IXL score higher on tests, proven in all 50 states. I come from a family of teachers, and they're having their kids use IXL. I'm seeing my nieces and nephews, if they had gaps from last year, they're closing those. And they're continuing their learning routine, which is helping them build confidence in challenging subjects. And I know my nieces and nephews are going to start the school year off strong. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And True Crime Garage listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/garage. That's IXL.com/garage.
Summer always seems to sneak up on us, but Groons is the one wellness habit that actually keeps up with your schedule. Groons are a convenient, comprehensive formula in one delicious daily pack of gummy bears. This isn't a multivitamin, a greens gummy, or a prebiotic. It's all of those things and then some at a fraction of the price. And bonus, they taste great. They come in a daily pack of gummies because you can't fit the amount of nutrients Groons does into just one gummy. With more than 20 vitamins and minerals, including 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, Groons ingredients are backed by over 35,000 research publications. I've been taking Groons now, consuming these little gummy bears for about a month, and I am enjoying this because I have more energy and I feel healthier. And it's got to be from the Groons, baby. And it's not heavy lifting. This is easy, convenient. There's a handful of delicious gummy bears in each little packet. I usually take mine, eat them in the afternoon as a little snack, take them on the go, or consume those little gummy bears right before hitting the gym for a little added extra boost of energy. Save up to 52% off with code GARAGE at Groons.co. That's code GARAGE at GRUNS.co.
Hi, I'm Daniel, founder of Pretty Litter. Cats and cat owners deserve better than any old-fashioned litter. That's why I teamed up with scientists and veterinarians to create Pretty Litter. Its innovative crystal formula has superior odor control and weighs up to 80% less than clay litter. Just one bag lasts up to a month, meaning fewer refills and less scooping. Pretty Litter even monitors health by changing colors to help detect early signs of potential illness. It's the world's smartest kitty litter.
Go to prettylitter.com and use code PANDORA for 20% off your first order.
All right, we are back. Talk hands in the air. Cheers to you, Colonel.
Cheers to you, Captain.
This case to me seems like such a urban legend, right?
Yes.
Like young 17-year-old girl goes to her shift at her job and, hey, can you fill in for this other location? Yeah, I can do so. You're going to have to drive me there. And I don't think it's clear, but I'm guessing that somebody was going to come pick her up and drive her back to the original location so she could just walk home.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Somebody was going to pick her up. I don't know who that person was.
I'm assuming the manager.
It was probably, the Rick Eman guy who drove her there to begin with. And he's a manager involved at both locations. And look, my employee, he's already he's doing everything he's supposed to as a good manager. Remember, it's reported he brought her lunch that day. He drove in and checked on her. She did express to other people she liked working alone. So I don't know if when they needed a volunteer, she raised her hand. But yeah, I would guess that it was Rick that was going to drive her home, and this employee shows up. She's gone. He calls the manager. Manager shows up, finds everything that concerned the employee who arrived for his 3 p.m. shift, calls the police. And we said, look, it's 1977. We've done enough of these cases. We've seen this time and time again. Teenager, late 70s, vanishes. You see it in the paper all the time. They go, well, this irresponsible jerk of a kid just took off and went to have some fun for a while, and he or she will return when they want to. Now, we've look, there's blame to be tossed around, but rather than putting people through the ringer any more than they need to be, the investigation was further complicated because we did have people who would later claim that they saw someone that they thought matched Yvonne's description. Okay, so we get 2 separate truck drivers that came forward, both claiming that they had seen Yvonne or somebody matching her description hitchhiking in the Sandusky area. But this would be days after her disappearance was reported. Yeah. One said that they had picked her up in Lorain and drove her to Norwalk. The other claimed to have given her a lift from Port Clinton to Toledo. It seems like at the time that police found their stories convincing, and this would only lend more weight to the runaway theory at the time.
Let's try to put our feet in the shoes of the investigators. This is not somebody driving down the road and thinking they saw somebody. These are 2 individuals that are claiming to have interaction. When you pick somebody up in your vehicle, you're very close to this individual. I would argue, though, especially at this time, late 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s were more sign of the times to have trends. And she had a trendy haircut, maybe a little bit shorter than the normal trend. It was a pretty trendy haircut. And so I could see them being confused, but you'd think at some point that you're driving this individual, you're going to make small talk. What's your name? Where are you going? But before these sightings happen, you're showing up at the gas station. If I'm walking into that gas station, I go, she left her purse. She left her book. I'm not worried about the lunch. The lunch was provided by work. Somebody could toss that. But if she's going to run away, why isn't she taking her book? Why isn't she taking her belongings? It makes no sense. But then you go, well, is it possible because she was working at this other location? Did she know about this coffee repair scheduled maintenance? And maybe she just thought, hey, it's slow. Friend is going to drive by and pick me up, and I'm just going to disappear for a little bit. As long as I get back before my shift's over, maybe nobody's the wiser. Problem with that, though, she doesn't lock up. And the pumps, they're not self-service. They're full service. You can go, well, she's 17 years old, so maybe it's just a momentary lapse of irresponsibility. But I don't think we have any work history that suggests that she's an irresponsible person. And it's late 70s. 17 today feels like such a child. And in the late 70s, a 17-year-old going into their senior year, they're 1 year away from the real world. And there's a lot of people in the 70s that were, if they're not going to college, they're immediately entering a career type workforce. And some of these individuals are getting married within a couple years of graduating high school. So it's just a different time.
Another strange story claiming to have seen the girl was an airline clerk. Remember, so Yvonne goes missing on a Monday. An airline clerk, she comes forward on a Tuesday or Wednesday saying that she believes to have seen a girl fitting Yvonne's description who bought a ticket for a 10 a.m. flight to Miami. And she says this young woman paid with $1 bills and 50-cent pieces. So she was memorable, not just because she was young, but the way that she paid for the ticket, and that she was traveling alone with no luggage.
Another thing that bothers me about this investigation, and they might have done it, they just didn't report it publicly, is there's talks that there's cash in the register, but they don't talk about the register balancing at the end of the day.
The register balancing?
Yeah, meaning there's $300 left in the cash register. Was there supposed to be 300 or was it supposed to be 400? Was there any money taken?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think if that were the case, we would have that report. Remember, what I see... It
wouldn't be bad holdback information, though.
It wouldn't be bad holdback information, but what I'm seeing early on is a lieutenant who's going out of his way to defend the stance of we have a runaway.
Yeah, I
remember he said, well, if she was kidnapped, why didn't they just rob the station?
Yeah.
And I actually downplayed his statements to the press. To further validate my belief here, I'll include what else he said. He also said, well, if she was abducted and raped, we would know because she would have reported that to us by now. And then months later, they had said too, like, the runaway claim is believed to be confirmed because now we've had sightings of her, which they haven't. They've had sightings from people who believe that they saw her.
Right.
What credibility these people have that came forward, we don't know. But anyway.
And we know that people sometimes report things because they just want to help.
The other statement was, well, we never received a ransom, so she wasn't kidnapped.
Yeah. When we talk about bad investigations, I think you coined the phrase lazy or stupid. And I think in this one, I feel that they're both happening at the same time.
I see no investigation here going on.
And my argument here too would be she is vulnerable because of the full service gas pump.
I was going to ask you, what does this crime scene tell you? What is this scene telling you?
When the investigator says, if she was abducted, why didn't they just take the money? Well, because the abduction point wouldn't be inside the gas station. The abduction point to me would be at the pump.
It's the pump.
And that makes me really wonder about this repeating visit by the same car. Did this individual drive by and see her working by herself? And then he went, oh, okay, I fancy her. Well, this is a full service pump. So I go back and she has to come out and pump it. Now I have some kind of communication with her. Maybe I can create some kind of ruse. But we know that there's transactions after that. Okay, well, if he came back one time, did that vehicle come back another time? And did anybody see that vehicle? Do we have any eyewitness descriptions of that? And maybe we don't have a description of the abductor, but maybe we have a description of the vehicle.
Yeah, and oftentimes I think that people look at a situation and they overcomplicate what needed to take place to get to what you know. Okay, what we know is she's missing. There's money in the register, and there is a full service gas pump only at this location. There's no signs of a struggle inside. There's no indication that any kind of altercation or anything took place inside. The employee arrives to a neat and clean small store. All of her stuff is still there. Her purse, including her driver's license.
And guess what? There'd be no sign of a struggle outside if the abductor drives up, has her come out. She has to go out. That's part of her job. And he pulls a gun and says, get in the car.
Yeah, she's already next to your vehicle. You can force her in the vehicle or you could trick her in the vehicle. That's where that's going to take place. I don't think she was tricked in. I think she was forced in. And I get what they're saying. They're not wrong. If a register containing hundreds of dollars is untouched, with no one there to defend it, why not take the money? But you're overcomplicating what is not a complicated scenario. What do we know that the criminal would want? He wants two things. And why do we know this? Because of what took place. She's gone.
Yeah.
So someone wanted to abduct her. And the other thing that they wanted to do is not get caught, right? Trying to control someone in the vehicle or move them around on the property and go and retrieve the money from the register, which you don't know how much it contains, is highly risky, and it's a very big unnecessary risk, and it will either prevent you from abducting the girl and or get you caught.
Yeah, because the longer you're there, And the longer there's interaction between you and our victim, the more chances there's going to be eyewitnesses. And so why take the chance? I'm at the pump, get in my car. Not, hey, let's go back in the gas station and let me hope that there's some money in the register. This crime is, the motivation would be, like you said, control, sexual, violent. The motivation isn't to get $300 out of a cash register. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. It just takes a captain.
So we have these sightings, and we know the opinion of police at the time, but okay, today we know that this was bogus. And we know that police, Fairview Park Police, have said for many, many years now, openly, that she was abducted, that they believe she was abducted.
Well,
In
just
fact,
to go on a little rant, and I don't know if you've seen this lately, but I know it's happening in other states, but it's been talked a lot about in Ohio, is setting up different protocols. And I know that there are some protocols for how these cases are investigated, but especially back then, a lot of this stuff was just willy-nilly. And it makes zero sense to me. If you go to get your oil changed at Valvoline, they have procedures and checklist. This is what should be happening with law enforcement as well.
Yeah, I mean, today they operate much differently than they did in most parts of the country. They operate very differently today than they did in 1977.
Yeah.
Police here have partnered in this specific case, have partnered with the U.S. Marshal Service, the FBI, and BCI. Yvonne Reglar is listed everywhere that one would expect on the Ohio AG's office and website for missing persons, the Charlie Project, NamUs, NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, you name it. And the other part of this too here, in regard to even the thought that she took off, is, what do we know? We know that she had plans for that evening. We know that she had plans for the following day. She expressed that she purchased a dress specifically for the friend's father's funeral that she was going to be attending the next day. That's an indicator that she was looking forward to that. And her friend that she was on the phone with says, we were working on creating plans for that night, making additional plans for that night. So usually when you see somebody that is making all these arrangements and working things out for the near future, that's a big indicator that they're not just going to go roller skating off into nowhere. So the police said that she spent most of her earnings from work and didn't save much money. And today, of course, authorities do not believe that Yvonne left of her own accord, as she was not having any personal problems at the time of her disappearance and had no history of runaway behavior. Now, recently,
the theory just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I was watching a true crime doc last night, and I hate it when you hear that the detectives come up with a theory and then they try to make everything fit to that theory. It drives me insane.
I think the problem is they have no evidence suggesting anything at the scene.
Right.
Then you rely on experience, and now you have a guy who's going, oh, I've showed up to 1,000 of these calls, and it's always some teenage boy who's not where he's supposed to be, and he turns up late that night, early the next morning. He's out goofing off with his friends. And I think they become a victim to themselves, a victim to their experience in their environment. Fairview Park Police Chief Paul Shepard is on the record saying and backing up the claims that they've had for years now that we don't think that she left of her own accord, stating that, look, she was the only attendant on duty. Quote, the fact that she wasn't supposed to be there, he says, is important. She did not know when she left her house that day. She did not know that she was going to be at another location working that day. And he also says, too, she had plans for that night. We found no indication that she ran away, end quote. And they think that she was abducted while she was pumping gas, just like you and I had said when reviewing this, what should be labeled as a crime scene. Shepard said Yvonne initialed a receipt around 1:25 that afternoon, but between 1:30 and 2:05 p.m., he said 2 customers and a coffee machine repair person found the gas station empty. Yvonne's personal items were still there. Quote, "Would you leave your purse and all your belongings behind?" Shepard said, "No, you would take something." He said it was only after the shift replacement arrived at work to the empty station around 3 p.m. that Yvonne was reported missing. He says by that time it was about an hour, maybe an hour and a half after he says that he believes that she was either tricked or physically taken. Quote, "She was taken from the pump," he said. "There was no DNA. There was no evidence because she would have just been grabbed and put in a car."
Well, the problem too is they can't do fingerprints or DNA analysis on the pump because one, the customer is not supposed to touch it, but there's probably a bunch of customers that touch the pump. So that becomes more difficult. But the fact that she talked to her friend is great. We get some clues or possibly some leads there. Is this repeat customer? Is that somebody that we should be interested in? And yes, I know that she's at a different location, but she's not that far away from the original location. And isn't there some rumors that there might have been some guy that a customer that would come in and maybe he fancied her, maybe she fancied him, and they would have some kind of engagement?
Yes, there was talk of that. And that's an odd portion of this story because there are people that say, no, that wasn't true. There are others that say that's absolutely true. And then the people that believe it to be true, they're unclear as to what that may point toward or what that's an indicator of. Did she leave willingly with this individual, or was this somebody that was setting something up and at a later time took her?
Yeah, it seems like there's a couple of friends that were close, but look, it could have been not much of anything in her world, but she told a couple of her friends. The parents and a lot of her family members say, well, if this was happening, she never talked about it with us. My argument there would be there's a lot of kids in that house, so it's kind of hard to keep track of every little detail that's happening in your kids' lives.
There's 3 kids in the house, but the bigger part of that, I think, is she's 17.
Yeah.
I don't see a long line of 17-year-olds that are just wanting to tell mom and dad everything.
Yeah, every detail.
In 2016, police announced that they had identified a person of interest in Yvonne Reglar's disappearance. They described this individual, did not name him, but described him as a man who has committed similar offenses in the past and is currently in custody on unrelated charges. He is not a member of Yvonne's family, they specified, and they reminded the public at that time that Yvonne's case remains unsolved.
Yeah, I think this is really fascinating because during their investigation, once they get over that giant hump, and probably the reason why the case isn't solved today is this initial theory, lack of motivation to look into anything, lack of motivation to do any type of investigation. But at some point, they start looking into different serial killers, which I thought was an interesting turn or something, I guess. When there's not much information coming in, why not look into this? And a couple of people they looked into, which I think is fascinating, is Samuel Little. And I think one of the reasons why they looked into him, location and time and all that stuff, but also these drawings and do any of these drawings possibly match our victim here? I also know that they looked into Rodney Akala. Is that how you say his name?
Mm-hmm.
Or the dating game killer. The problem with Rodney, though, is location. He has crimes that we know that he committed in California, some in New York. So possibly is this a situation where he's just traveling? And I think one of the reasons why they looked into him is he had all those photos of women that he took pictures of. He didn't attack all those women, but they thought maybe there's a chance that we would find Yvonne in these photos.
Yeah, I appreciate them looking at both of those individuals, and to their credit, there were a lot of serial killers roaming at that time in this country, and a lot of bad dudes that were hunting in Ohio specifically around that time period. So unfortunately, there's no shortage of people that you might want to look at. With both of those individuals, though, I would argue that their MO, while Yvonne certainly fits Akala's victimology that we would see, she doesn't fit Sam Little's, and both of their MOs are quite different than what I think we are faced with here. Remember, Sam Little never really made any effort to conceal the body.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one thing that we know is we're days away from 49 years of her not being found, not being located.
Yeah, she's disappeared and her body has never been found.
So while they never named this person of interest in 2016, just announcing that they have one, I can't guarantee that I have the right person, but I do know of somebody that they looked at early on in the investigation. When I say early on, I believe this would have been November, right? So she goes missing in August. Usually I believe that you find what you're looking for in the early parts of an investigation, ultimately. So this is from the Cleveland Press. This is an article from late November 1977. The headline is Suspect had eyes on 50 women. So I'll give a bit of a summary here. I got two articles that I want to summarize for everyone. And this article reads in part, 2 detailed notebooks kept by Richard Allen Wright, accused kidnapper of Linda Sharp, listed the names and license plates of about 50 Cleveland area women Wright had in mind for being potential victims, police said. Quote, I am glad he kept such nice notes, said Detective Sergeant William Wilkins, who said he and his men would seek to contact all of the women in the notebooks for statements and determine if any of them are missing. The article says school teacher Linda Sharp has given a detailed statement about her imprisonment by Richard Wright in his house trailer in Florida, where she was kept for 12 days. So that's where they found these notebooks that they were discussing in Wright's trailer in Florida. Now, remember, these are names of women in the Cleveland area and license plates from the Cleveland area of Ohio. And the detective in this article says some of the entries into these notebooks featured women's names alphabetized. Others simply listed license plates of women Wright had noticed and followed at one time. And in some cases, he made notes describing the women. For example, one entry gave a license plate number followed by gray olds, blonde, very nice teacher. One note stated blonde, very nice. Another stated thin blonde. Another Wright notebook entry was Monte Carlo half final top brown bottom donut lady. Police were attempting to seek a link between this suspect and a missing girl from Fairview Park.
Yeah.
In a separate article, it reads in part, prison escapee Richard Allen Wright, age 29, was to appear in court in Clearwater, Florida, as a first step toward returning him to Ohio to face charges of kidnapping schoolteacher Linda Sharp. On November 14th, 1977, Richard Wright attempted to conceal his identity as a reformatory escapee and was living and acting under the name of George M. Lewis. Okay, so when he's arrested, he tells police that he's George M. Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this works very briefly because he presents to them a ID with the name of George M. Lewis. And where does this fake ID, George M. Lewis? What's unclear is I don't know if it's a stolen ID or if it was a fake ID.
Right.
But the key here is a couple of things. Is George M. Lewis, whoever he is, it's a bogus ID from North Olmsted, Ohio, where Yvonne Reglar lived. And now she's working just 15 minutes up the road. Richard Wright was identified through fingerprints by the FBI. Again, he was claiming to be George M. Lewis. Wright was serving a term at Ohio Reformatory for abducting and raping an 18-year-old North Olmsted woman in 1972. The abduction had taken place in Walton Hills, and the victim was kept prisoner in a East Cleveland apartment for 3 days before she was freed. He made his escape on March 3rd, 1976, after stabbing a guard with a screwdriver. Charges against him in Linda Sharp's case included aggravated burglary, aggravated robbery, felonious assault, resisting arrest, and kidnapping. Miss Sharp was said to have been kept handcuffed and gagged in his trailer near Tarpon Springs in Pasco County, Florida. Linda Sharp believed that she was going to be killed soon. Investigators searched his trailer and reportedly found a 9mm pistol, burglary and locksmith tools, and a key-making machine. And there's more, Captain. Richard Wright grew up on Lorraine Road in North Olmsted. Police believe there is a possible link to Yvonne Reglar's missing persons case.
Okay, so question. In this kidnapping, he kidnaps this teacher from the Cleveland area, and then he takes her to Florida?
From her apartment, I believe, yeah.
So how does he do this? By car, truck, or...
He had a car. He had a Maverick. This is like the thing that aggravates me to no end. I talked about this when we were discussing the Brashears case, where we now know that we have this man who was driving around the country, raping and killing women. Yeah. And at the end of every story, you have police, FBI, and different law enforcement agencies saying we're still looking for all of the crimes that this guy may have committed. He's dead. We can't convict him. We can't punish him, but we are now really concerned what he's done because we've tied him to murders, rapes in Texas, Missouri, Tennessee, some assaults in Arkansas, a homicide in South Carolina, and we don't know everything he did. We still want to learn more about his timeline and what he may have done. And then they give you a picture, like his driver's license photo, but no description as to what he weighed, how tall he was. And look, it's really easy to, everybody uses the term Google these days. Google this, Google that. Let's go police machine. Type into your little police machine and find out what vehicles were registered to this monster and let us know, the public, who you are asking for help. Yeah. Same here with this dude who was arrested down in Florida for kidnapping this woman in the Cleveland area, abducting her. He broke into their apartment in the middle of the night, knocks her unconscious, uses a large duffel bag to drag her to his vehicle, which is all it says in the article is he was driving a Maverick that was registered to that fake name. Maybe, you're like, he might be tied to other crimes. Let's give a description of that vehicle in the article, please. Like, and some of that is on the reporter. Yeah. Ask that question, or if you know that information, put it in your article. I'm sorry, but me, Mr. Public here, would like to know what kind of vehicle the monster that was attempting to kill people was driving at the time.
Well, as far as law enforcement goes, good for them. 2016, a lot of time has passed. That would be 40 years almost?
And again, to be clear, they may not be talking about the guy that I suspect that they're talking about, because they did not name him, but this was somebody that they looked at late in 77, and he does fit the very vague description of the person of interest that they give to us in 2016.
Right. Maybe it's the same guy, maybe it's not. Seems likely to me. But also in 2016, you can go, well, we're not going to release the guy's name, but we do have a suspect we haven't been able to clear. Okay, well, what vehicle was he driving at the time? Because you say that, you give even just a stock photo of this car, it might jog somebody's memory that was driving by and saw a man talking to a woman at the gas station that night or that day. But because of your lack of investigation, because of stupidity and laziness, this person saw something that might matter, but then heard, oh, well, it's probably nothing because I heard I heard that Yvonne ran away.
Yeah, so this is a little troubling because it's difficult to pin this guy down. We know that he had access to this trailer in Florida where he is eventually caught with a woman he took prisoner, essentially, for 12 days. He takes her from the Cleveland area. Okay, well, then that would mean that in mid-November, he was in Ohio. So was he in Ohio, in Northeast Ohio, in August of that same year? That's not, and he's from that area. And this is one of those guys, the more I'm digging on this dude, there's more boxes that I'm checking, but it's all left with a good deal of uncertainty. So he grew up practically right down the road from this gas station where Yvonne disappeared from. His father worked as a mechanic and taught him how to work on vehicles. And he was known in this neighborhood near this Sunoco station to be the kind of guy that would fix your car for payment under the table in your backyard or in your garage. And again, he has a history of abduction and rape. And the one victim he was convicted of prior to Yvonne's disappearance was 18 years old. So very much fits the same victimology. And he was out at that time. He escaped prison in 1976. And of course, we know that he is a violent sexual offender. Now, is he a murderer? We don't know, but I would believe that maybe part of the problem here in Yvonne's case is if he managed to get her down to Florida. I don't know when he had access to that trailer, but if he managed to get her down to Florida, he may have disposed of the body down there somewhere. He would have had plenty of time to do it.
Yeah, one the other problem, and it's pretty obvious, very north part of Ohio to Florida, there's a lot of spaces in between. And depending on how he was trying to transport her, look, at some point she sees a window of opportunity or she is not cooperating the way he wants her to. So he kills her on the way or whatever. So now you have to open up the database of any Jane Does that are from Cleveland to Florida. Do any of those Jane Does match our victim?
We do know that Yvonne Reglar's DNA has been checked and she's been excluded as a couple of Jane Does. One in particular was a Jane Doe in Sandusky, and that is a woman that the Porchlight Project was able to identify. Now, last year, on what would have been the 48-year marker since Yvonne was last seen, Fairview Park Police Chief Paul Shepard made a plea to the media and the public for any information, adding, quote, "This is a young lady that showed up to work, did nothing wrong. She's missing," Shepard said. "We owe it to her, her family, and the rest of the community to find out what happened to her." He vowed that his department will not stop searching until they find her. If you have any information about Yvonne Reglar's disappearance on August 8th, 1977, please call Fairview Park Police at 440-356-4418 or email chiefofpolice@fairviewparkohio.gov, and we will have that information for you in today's show notes.
I want to thank everybody for joining us here in the garage each and every week. Grab your favorite chair, grab your favorite beer. Colonel, do we have any recommended reading for the beautiful listeners?
Yes, we do, Captain. This week we are recommending The Buried Truth, the brutal murder and collateral cover-up of Sandy Miller. On September 18th, 1978, Scott Miller was summoned to his home to find his wife, Sandy, brutally murdered. The murder weapon was sitting in the kitchen sink, completely ignored and undocumented. The crime scene was open to the public, and the coroner had already begun making decisions that weren't his to make. Scott was 23 years old at the time, and from that moment, The authority figures initiated a cover-up. The Berry truth is the story of 47 years of silence, corruption, and one man's refusal to be buried alongside his daughter's mother. That's The Buried Truth by Scott Miller. You can find that title and many other great recommendations on our recommended page. Go to our website, truecrimegarage.com.
And until next week,
be good, be kind, and don't litter.
Every wireless service comes with a cost, right? Wrong. The Text Now app lets you do your thing for free. Get real talk, real text, and 5G data for must-have apps with no monthly bill. Need more data? Add it right from the app. Done? Go back to free. No long-term contracts, no pressure, no surprises. Just wireless that works around you. Text Now. We've got your back. Download Text Now in your app store today. Wireless plans require the purchase of a SIM card. Visit textnow.com for terms and conditions.